They're back. Barack and Michelle Obama. Democrats rolled out their political power couple for primetime appearances at the DNC convention last night. Former First Lady Michelle Obama ripped into former President Donald Trump and his Republican allies. However, she did not mention President Biden once during her speech. She instead talked about a new feeling of hope that's spreading within the Democratic Party.
Something wonderfully magical is in the air, isn't it? You know, we're feeling it here in this arena, but it's spreading all across this country we love. A familiar feeling that's been buried too deep for far too long. You know what I'm talking about. It's the contagious power of hope. I have mourned the dimming of that hope. And maybe you've experienced the same feelings. Is that deep pit in my stomach, a palpable sense of dread about the future?
Does she mean over the last 4 years? Because that would be Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's watch. Ooh, it was on. However, former President Barack Obama did talk about his old running mate in a loving way. Obama praised Biden up and down, despite reportedly playing a role in pushing him out.
Joe and I come from different backgrounds, but we became brothers. I am proud to call him my president, but I am even prouder to call him my friend.
Emily.
Yes, that was my first thought too, Harris. I was like, Joe Biden just stepped down from the candidacy a month ago. What do you mean it's been far too long? It felt like they were bringing out those same tired talking points that feel so stale. And they are not only applying them to their own party, but they're applying them to the country, and they are applying them to the Republican Party, which is that things are absolutely horrible, the difference is good and evil, and it doesn't make sense when you apply that on the overlay of who's been in control this entire time. In fact, it totally pierces their entire approach. Note, too, who's the audience here? Who are the Obamas speaking to? Does the average American have on the DNC? And it's really about the surrogates. It's really about coming out and showing them, hey, the Obamas are all in for Kamala and Walz. So take note, guys. Pretend that this is Obama 2.0 because this is what we've been telling you, and go ahead and amplify it throughout the country.
You know, Juan, I shared something yesterday, and I'll quickly go through this. I won't read all the numbers. It's almost 1 million people. The uncommitted vote in certain areas. Some of them are probably among these protesters, although we haven't vetted everybody. How important is it to make sure that anti-Israel and those other things are not mentioned by topic here in a speech by the man who says, or he and his wife say, things were so much better a time ago, when a time ago includes Joe Biden's presidency, as Emily just said?
Well, I think last night we heard a lot of very clear language saying that there's no place in this party and in this country for anti-Semitism. And last night, gosh, I think he did. But you know what? I think, the clearer statement, I forget who might exactly have said it, but I mean, here was Governor Pritzker of Illinois, who's Jewish. Here you have Bernie Sanders, who's Jewish, on the stage. I think there are 26 Jewish members of the House. I think there are two who are, all but two are Democrats.
I had one on my program last hour. Yes, Brad Sherman.
The 10 senators, the 10 Jewish senators, 10 senators in the country are Jewish, and they're all Democrats. I don't think there's any question about that. People want to stand. They have divisions in terms of the policies, Harris, but I don't think that there's any place for that anti-Semitism, and it's certainly not being embraced. I think, to the contrary, people are saying you have to hear people who have legitimate protest about, seeing so many people die.
Yeah, and Barack Obama did say that. Everybody's worth listening to. I don't know if you want to sit down with anti-Semitics, but I guess that's one's choice. Kaylee?
Let me start by saying there's no denying Michelle Obama is a very talented speaker. She had the speech of the week. There was a lot of poetry in there. But if you wanted to plan for groceries coming down and the cost coming down, that wasn't there last night. If you wanted to plan to buy a starter home, that wasn't there last night. If you wanted to plan to make your streets safer, that was not there last night. When will that moment come? And I just must say, I was stunned when she used that language about the dimming hope that she has had. given that Biden has been in power for 4 years, it seemed like a snub at the guy who was just forced off the stage. And a longtime Biden aide actually told Politico it was an implicit rebuke of the Biden era, said a White House aide. So why was that necessary? It's just felt like stomping on a man when he's very, very much down.
Kellyanne.
Yeah, no question. I was really struck by a story that was written right after Joe Biden became president. And he said that he had been invited, he and Jill had been invited, he was in the East Wing one time as vice president in 8 years, folks. And Kaylee knows because we worked there together. That was like called Tuesday for us. I mean, the Trumps had more of an open door policy in the East Wing to senior advisors to make sure that we felt welcome, that you can have meetings over there as well. How in the world was the vice president of 8 years in the East Wing in one of those reception rooms one time? How do they not have dinner every quarter, the Obamas and the Bidens? And I think now we know why. This is a guy, Barack Obama, who said to Joe, you don't need to do this, don't run in the first place. And to not mention Joe and Jill Biden last night for former First Lady Michelle Obama, I think was a terrible snub. Also, this Trump, you know, Trump is the adjective, the verb, the adverb. It's great for applause lines. There are no swing voters in the United Center, I promise. And you can't, by the way, the Obamas are as popular as they are. Michelle Obama knows scarcity is a great strategy. She pops in every 4 years to attack Donald Trump. She did it in 16, 20, 24. You can't transfer that to other people. It didn't work for Hillary. We'll see if it works for Kamala, who's going to feel like a big letdown after the Obamas.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.